case you can't tell by my beard and insanely long hair, it is officially finals week, and I'm going to show you today how I studied for some exams, and hopefully it helps you. Let's get to it. So this presentation is going to be near and dear to my heart because I've been in school for so long now, and I feel like eventually I've taken enough exams that hopefully this will help you. So let's just get into it. So today I'm just going to discuss 3 simple ways to pass, if not ace your exams. In my case, I'm just trying to pass. But these steps are things I've used quite literally for almost, I don't know, like 16 years at this point, and it has paid immense dividends. So with that being said, I'm just going to get straight into it. The first step is to make sure you go to class, or make sure that you've at least watched every lecture that's going to be on your test at least once. Whether that's in the form of going through it the first time when you actually had the class, whether that meant that you actually went into class and you were there and you took notes on your lecture notes, you want to make sure that by the time the exam comes around, at least 3 or 4 days in advance, you have at least one pass of every lecture in your brain. It doesn't matter if it happened a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago. It doesn't matter as long as you've had at least one pass, because the point is your brain is very good at recognizing things that you've seen before. So even if it's a long time ago, just make sure you've had at least one pass. In the, right now below, I'm going to show you my personal notes. The class that I'm preparing for is a macroeconomics class. That's the economy on a global market scale. And you'll see that I actually have notes starting from lecture 1 all the way through lecture 13, which is what I'm going to get quizzed on. This is 13 lectures. Each of them was 80 minutes, and I attended each of them, and I actually took notes. I took hand notes. And I know some people don't take hand notes. Maybe they take notes on their computer, whatever it is. Just make sure you have at least one pass of notes or some level of written notes, as I've shown you already. Step 2, let's say you're preparing for this exam, and worst case scenario, it's 2 days away. I have actually prepared for exams on that scale, or even if it's just tomorrow. The next thing you want to do is go over each lecture, whether that's in the form of actually rewatching the lecture, or if you just want to be like me sometimes, just review the notes and make sure you get the big points. Like really make sure you understand them. And you want to do this starting from lecture 1 all the way to the end. So in my case, I'm going to go from lecture 1 to lecture 13, and the test is on Monday. It's Saturday right now. I've actually gotten through about 6 lectures today. I watched them, I rewatched them all, and I'm going to show you what I mean when I go through them the second time. You want to be paying attention. You don't want to be taking too many notes, but one thing I do, actually there's 2 things I do. The first thing is I usually create a 1-pager. You'll see that on the slide right here. I just highlighted it. Anytime, because you've already been through all 13 lectures at least once, you know what the big concepts are. In macroeconomics for me, I know that the big concepts are investments equals savings, the money market, the goods market, the full employment curve. So I know those big picture things. So when I see them the first time they come up, I write them down. I draw those curves out. So you'll see that I created a 1-pager, and even though I'm only 7 lectures in, this 1-pager is going to be really good at summarizing those big 7 lectures because it gives me one place where everything is. And you'll see it's very concise, very brief, just very big points that I want to take away. The second thing that you want to make sure you're doing is when you're going through these lectures, I usually create some level of flashcards, whether that's personal flashcards on hand. I use Anki, so I'm going to show you how I use Anki in this step. But when I'm going through each lecture, I actually physically am watching the lecture, and as each lecture is going, I'm usually making flashcards about the relevant material, and usually I'm watching the lecture at about 2x or almost 2.5x speed, just because I've seen the material before. I know where I get confused. If I get confused, I'll pause it, I'll take some notes and go from there. So now I want to show you the step 2 in action, and you'll see that I'll have a voiceover over like showing you exactly what I'm doing here. So let me now show you how this works. Before I go into it, I want to show you a bit about what I do in Anki. For every class, I usually have my class name, and I have everything broken down by week. So as you saw, I told you I was done with about 7 lectures. So every week there's 2 lectures. So you'll see in week 1, I went through the lectures, week 2, week 3, week 4. Now, before I start, I just want to show you my layout is, I'll have my lecture on the right side here, and I'll keep it on my speed. And then on the left side, I have my Anki, and usually I'll type in a question, I'll type in an answer, I'll make the answer a closed deletion. And if you don't know how to use Anki, I definitely have a video. Go ahead, click right up there. But I make a closed deletion, and in the extra column, I usually copy and paste a relevant text from the lecture slide. So now let me actually take you through an actual aspect of me going through the lectures and making flashcards. So you can see as I start, I actually increased my speed type to 2.5. The add-on I used for this is actually, I'm going to link it in the description below, but it's a Chrome add-on that allows me to go 2.5x. And now you'll see that as I come across a concept I don't understand, I'll make a flashcard related to that concept. And I also usually start with a general question and answer format. So in this case, I'm asking, do firms invest more or less when there's a higher interest rate? And then I'll write the answer to that question, which is the fact that firms invest less because the interest rate is higher. And in the extra section of the flashcard, I actually include the relevant image from which I got that content. So you'll see I included a screenshot of the slide because now when I come back to this card, it'll give me the relative reference I need to get the stuff done. And once I'm done with that flashcard, I add it and I continue watching the lecture at a relatively fast rate because again, I've gone through this material before. This is not the first time I'm seeing it. So the whole point is to make sure I get through it effectively so I can move on and get to points that I don't understand. I've sped this up now just for the sake of brevity, but again, this is still much of the same. I go through the rest of the lecture still relatively fast and just make flashcards on concepts that I think are critical and include the relevant image. This is again primarily to get the second pass in, and you should do this about 24 to 48 hours before the exam because it's a great way to consolidate everything in one place. And the best part is you're going to have flashcards for the rest of your life that you can refer back to if you ever wanted it. Now, step 3 of this final process is to finally practice and retain. I remember the day before an exam in undergrad would always be one of the better days for me because I had already made all my flashcards for all of the lectures that were going to be on the exam. And the day before the test, I would just do all of those flashcards, whether that was in the form of Quizlet, handmade flashcards, or even just Anki, which is what I'm doing right now. The other thing that I encourage you to do the day before the exam, way more important than doing all the flashcards, is to do your practice exams. Believe it or not, you don't actually have to do all the flashcards you made to get that information in your head. Just the aspect of you doing those flashcards the week leading up to the test will be more than enough to get that information in your head. So you may be realizing my macroeconomics final is on Monday. And just because I made over 200 flashcards, I probably won't actually do them. Part of me making them is part of me learning. And now, let's say tomorrow I don't actually have time to do all of the flashcards. I will instead just jump straight to the practice exams and do the practice exams. And you will be so surprised by just how much, just the aspect of making the flashcards helped you understand the material. I've done this myself. I know it works. I recommend you do it when you make these flashcards. Trust me, try to do all of them, but if you can't and you find yourself a day before the exam and you don't have enough time, it's much more important to do the practice exams. But if you have the time, do the practice exams and do all of the flashcards, because when you do both of them, that's when you really get the A pluses. And I tell you this because I have gotten, and I hate to brag, but I've gotten like a few more than I would like to admit A pluses, and this strategy has worked every single time. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.